Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar. We're back for the second day of the intermediate. Hope everyone's having a good day. A bit of a different view here. I have put the camera a bit lower. I basically have a bigger monitor in front of me, and that would be too high to have the camera at the top. Why does my mic sound different? Am I using a different media? Just give me a second. Let's have a look and see. Actually, yes, it is. I should be using this one. I was using the one which is on the desk. I do apologize for that. So I did not choose the right microphone. Do I sound better now? Yeah, basically I was talking with the microphone about 1 meter that way. Alrighty then. So we should be able to get started in about a minute or so. Just waiting for any late arrivals to join us. We do have 2 modules for you today. Now today's webinar, it was originally 3 modules. We basically have the stun and the SBC as separate modules, but with update 5 we have put these into one, and you're getting a sneak preview before we upload them onto the Academy. So it's the same information, just we've removed any repetitive information from both of them and just merged them into one, but it is the same information. Okay, nothing really new, just a bit more streamlined. And then we'll finish off with the hot desking. So hope everyone is ready. Hope everyone has their snacks. Not too bad. So let me just put the www.3cx.com//3cx Academy. Okay, that is the URL for the previous videos. All the Academy, everything that we are talking about last week, this week, and next week is on the 3cx Academy. It is already uploaded. Okay, I will not. Can someone just please, if someone does ask for the previous webinars, just copy paste that link for them, please, because I seem to have a bit of a problem with my scrolling today. It's not really staying down the bottom, so I might miss a few questions. Okay. Okay, now, just so everyone basically, this, okay, you're going to get it in the face now. Okay, that is where you get the previous. Whoever asks for the next, just copy paste all that for them, please. Jody, no, it's not normal. For some reason, it's not scrolling. We did mention that to the guys, and they were looking into that. So I probably will need to give them a bit of feedback for that. Right, I think we can get started. So I would like to welcome you all. I would like to introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. My name is Nicholas. I am the 3cx Technical Trainer, working from home for the past few weeks, for the past month basically, and we'll be working from home for the next few weeks from what it seems. Hopefully we will be released soon. Let me just put that a bit further back a bit. Might need to get that a bit higher. Let me just find something here. Just give me a second. There we go. That's a bit better. Right. So, Alex, you're cheeky. Okay. All right. So basically, we will be getting started with the 2 modules. Like I said, we are working from home for the next few weeks as well. Hopefully, soon will be released. We've got 2 modules for you today. We did originally have 3, but we have merged the 2 into one for update 5. So since update 5 is officially released, you're getting a sneak preview of the new Academy. So if you do have any questions, the chat is open for everyone. I do encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar. No need to wait for the end. I generally do not have questions and answers at the end. I have them interactively during the webinar. The only thing I do request is that you do keep them on topic. Okay, so we are doing remote IP phone extensions. Please keep your questions on topic. I will be ignoring any questions which are not on topic. Okay, so Also, this is a technical training webinar, so we are going to demonstrate how things work. If things are not working the way you see them on the screen for your own PBX, not my job to fix it. Technical support will be doing that for you. I'm not going to fix your computer. Okay, so other than that, sit back, relax. I hope you've got your refreshments and your snacks. Let's get started. So, thank you very much, Shane. It does. All right, so basically what we're going to look at is the remote IP phone extensions. Now, we are going to be talking exclusively about IP phones because when we configured the 3CX applications, you can use them both locally and remotely. So out of the box, you can be up and running within a few seconds. But now, there are some people that generally love to have their IP phones, okay? They generally see an IP phone as a status symbol. They will basically say, look at me. I've got a nice, big, shiny phone. I'm important. It's also a touch screen as well. So I'm very important in the company. Okay. They see this as a status symbol. It's on their desk. It's theirs. It's my little precious. Now, to be honest, IP phones in an office environment, yuck. Not just the fact that it's old technology, the germs. Okay. Now, everything that is going on these days with all the COVID-19, the coronavirus and everything, you have to disinfect everything. Imagine the germs on this, okay? Ugh. So, okay, so, yuck. But we're going to show you how to do it to make it easy for a lot of people, okay? So, some of the prerequisites for running this module, we need to have the firewall where the PBX is located properly configured and passed, the firewall check. The PBX needs to have a valid SSL certificate if you are running on 3CX. If you are running on 3CX with the FQDN, we do supply that for you. It is a valid SSL certificate, so we are good to go. You need to be running a supported IP phone, running the recommended firmware version. Okay. Now, the IP phones that we do support in 3CX, Fanvil, Grandstrom, HTech, Snom, and Yealink. This list is in alphabetical order and in no order of preference. All the devices which are there are equally supported. They have equal capabilities. They probably have different color screens, size of screens, touch screen, non-touch, and so on, BLF keys, and so on. Okay, so it is up to your budget and up to your preference which device you prefer. We do have them listed on our supported website, 3cx.com/support. You'll be able to see the configuration guides as well. Brian, yes, the decks are a bit more involved to configure because you have to configure the base station and then the handsets. We are talking basically of IP phones now, just generic IP phones. Yep, Andrea, and how long does it take to move your network connection from one, especially if you are using VLANs as well and everything? Someone could also touch your phone, basically pick up the phone to make a call. Can I just use your phone for a second? Nope. Apoorva, basically the Let's Encrypt SSL with 3CX, it's automatically configured and automatically maintained. You don't need to do anything. You don't even need to renew it. It is done automatically every 2 to 3 months. Okay, it is valid for 3 months, and at the 2-month mark, it will basically start the renewal process. So basically, every 2 months it gets renewed. Okay. All right, now these are the general prerequisites for all the remote connections, for all the remote extensions. Now, with the Stun, we have additional prerequisites. You need to have a functioning mail server because when we provision the phone, we will need to have information which the user will need to log into the phone. Okay, we're going to see this very, very shortly. And you need to have access to the remote firewall or gateway to perform some configuration, a port forwarding, basically. Now with the SBC, we have additional requirements as well. Let me just increase the size of that a bit. I'm just going to turn the camera off for a bit. Okay. Now, for the SBC, to connect an SBC to the PBX, you need to have a local IP phone configured. So you need to know how to configure a local IP phone. Even though this is remote, the procedure is exactly the same as a local IP phone. Plug and play, you find it in the phones page, you assign an extension or add a new extension. With the SBC, we do have an additional requirement for another machine at the remote location. The supported operating system that you can use on this machine is a Windows 10, Pro or Enterprise. Okay, we are talking about the Windows license now, not the PBX. Debian 9. Now, Debian 9 and Windows 10 will need to be of a 64-bit architecture. 3CX has not done 32-bit software since 2014. So your PBX and the SBC will need to be 64-bit operating systems. We can also install on a Raspberry Pi using Raspbian. Now, as you may have seen from our roadmap, we are upgrading to Raspberry Pi 4 and Debian 10 very, very soon. Okay. Now, other requirements that we have. Exactly, Andrew. That's right. So the port forwarding is automatically done at the PBX side when you are using. So basically, the port forwarding that you have here on the firewall where the PBX is. So if you have it remote, yes, it is covered by Google. But if you have on-site, on-premise at your head office, and then you have others connecting on, your network firewall will need to have the firewall configuration configured, okay? But this, if you are using any internet connection from anywhere in the world, the firewall where the phones are in a stun environment will need to be basically configured properly, okay? So the firewall needs to be configured properly there. Right. Now, other requirements for the SBC. Now, a lot of people like to install, let me just bring that camera up a bit, have a bit of props here for you. A lot of people like to use little Intel NUCs, okay? So they like to use their little Intel NUCs. They basically get these with either two interfaces. They might get a small computer, a little mini computer, and those probably come with two interfaces as well. They've got virtual adapters, built-in Wi-Fi, built-in Bluetooth. These are all adapters in the operating system. We want them disabled, okay? Just have the one Ethernet card that you are using. We do recommend against using Wi-Fi. The Ethernet cable is a lot more stable and a lot more reliable, okay? So disable any unused adapters, and that one interface that you do have enabled, use only one IP address. Do not use Wi-Fi. Only have one static IP address. This is a local IP address. We're not talking about the public IP, the local IP address, and only one IP address, okay? Yes, Brian, for the stun, it will be one, it will be a port forwarding rule for each remote phone. We are going to see that very, very shortly. Should I do it? Should I do the last question? Is that going to be mean of me? I'll just do it once, don't worry. Okay, so that's the URL for. Thank you very much for that, Jody. Right. Okay. So, so keep it simple. Okay. Our philosophy of keep it simple applies here as well. One interface, one machine. Now, with the SBC, with Update 5, you can have high availability as well with the Debian if you need to as well. Okay. No worries, Oscar. We're just having a bit of a joke here. We're not really serious people here. We do try to keep a professional face, but there was a bit of a joke that people just ask about the URL quite a bit. Okay, and we do show it at the end of the module as well. Now, the hardware specs. Okay, the hardware specs that you will be using for the SBC are on the same page as the 3CX PBX hardware specs. They're just further down in the list. Now, with Windows and Debian, the software does have a soft limit of 100 extensions or simultaneous calls per machine. That's right, per machine. You can have more than one SBC if you want to on site. Okay, so if you have 200 extensions, you can put 2 Windows or 2 Debian machines on site. Each phone will be connected to one of the 2 SBCs. And this will allow you to also configure up to 1,000 BLF keys across all the devices on the SBC. That's about 10 per device. With the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, the maximum is 30 extensions or simultaneous calls. It is a lot more limited in its capabilities, and 300 BLF keys across all the devices. When the Raspberry Pi 4 is released, I would expect that these will go up. I have seen some preliminary specs, and I think we have mentioned it in the roadmap as well. So this will basically be upgraded as well. Oh, Bakur, I can tell you that it is. Jeffrey, no. It is statically assigned, but you will be able to select which SBC each phone will connect to. Okay, it's not dynamic. Right. Now, I've been challenged a bit now. I've had a bit of a challenge here. I might laugh, but the webinar is not on the URL. I'm going to go to the Academy right now. So I'm going to go to the Academy right now. Sorry, I'm going a bit off track now, but sorry, my team view has crashed a bit there. So let me just start that up again. I'm just going to, there we go. Okay, so I've been challenged a bit now. You don't challenge me, mate. Now, going to our website, okay? Learn 3C. If it has been removed, we need to tell marketing. So that's Learn 3CX Academy. We did yesterday's one, all right? So the PBX, which module didn't you find? Booker, basically you said the webinar's not on there. So we are basically at the Academy now. PBX Express that we did yesterday. Pre-recorded webinar here, okay? I can see it just fine, mate. Okay, and I can hear it as well. Coming back, backup and restore. The pre-recorded webinar is there. I can see that as well. Okay, and coming back, mate, I can see it. I don't know where you're clicking, but I can see it and it's all there. Okay. Okay. So our webinars are there. Okay. Right. So let me just come back to the presentation and 100 simultaneous calls included for those from internal LAN as well. No, only going through the SBC from the remote location. So when you are using the remote location, the phone's connecting and going through that. So it is basically processing 100 simultaneous calls through the SBC. Okay. Is it possible to have a tree topology like having SBC in one Suns? No. Basically, every telephone will be basically connecting onto its own SBC and go straight to the PBX. Basically, what the SBC does is this. Okay, so the SBC basically establishes a tunnel connection back to the PBX. The 3CX applications will connect basically going through to the PBX through the tunnel. The IP phones do not have the tunnel built in because that is 3CX proprietary technology. So we basically have the SBC, which allows that to come through and the phones connect through the tunnel back into the PBX. Okay. Eduardo, yes, It is also possible. Sorry, Sarkan had that. Way to register our remote IP phones. Yes, using Stun. That's basically the Stun we are talking about now. We're talking about two ways of connecting the PBX to the phones. We're going to connect them directly and through the SBC. But you will see that the Stun, you will see that we have a few pros and cons for each of the devices. Shane, if it's in the same network, why do you need to use the tunnel? You're putting just a lot of overhead on your network needlessly. The SBC is basically designed for remote extensions. Don't put the SBC in the same network as the LAN, okay, as the PBX. If you are using the cloud platform, is it necessary to have a SBC? No, the SBC is at the remote location. We're talking remote extensions now. We are not talking about the same network with the PBX and the phones. Okay, guys, we're talking about remote extensions. The PBX and the phones are in two totally isolated networks, not connected between them in any way whatsoever. Okay, they are not connected. They are dispersed. They are isolated. They are two totally independent networks. Okay. Jody, I have gone over the hardware specs and requirements for the SBC. Daniel, no, the ATAs will need to be local to the PBX and you VPN the sites together in order to use an ATA. Because it's not mandatory, you can connect the phones directly between them. Guys, we're still at the prerequisites. I haven't showed you how to do it yet. Okay, so all the questions that you are asking will be answered very, very shortly. Don, absolutely not. They are totally separate. Guys, okay? Now, what we're talking about now is remote extensions. The PBX and the phones are not in the same network. They are totally isolated, okay? We are trying to get this phone now connected to the PBX in the cloud. We're going to connect to our PBX Express that we connected yesterday, okay? That's what we're going to see, Don. That's exactly what we're going to see, okay? But you said basically you would assume the SBC would be co-installed on the AWS platform. No, the SBC is the endpoint over here. Look at the diagram. This is the PBX in its network, in the home network. It could be the cloud, it could be the office. This is the internet, okay? And the phone connects anywhere from the internet back to the PBX using the tunnel. This is the network where we have our remote location. It could be your house. It could be your office if in the cloud environment to connect to your PBX somewhere else. This could be a different city, a different country, not a different planet just yet. Okay, we're waiting for Elon Musk to take us to Mars. This basically establishes a tunnel connection for the IP phones to connect through. That's what the SBC does. It's a session border controller. It's a proxy manager. All it does is establish a tunnel. It's basically a dumbed down 3CX application. That's all it is, okay? Exactly, Don. We're covering two types of remote extensions now. We're covering Stun, okay, where you connect them directly. We haven't even gone past the prerequisites yet, guys. You're going far ahead, okay? You're going to make me stop the questions and have a question. Yeah, let me move forward, okay? Right, now, and don't make me get angry. I'm starting to get a bit meh. Right, you're getting a bit too far ahead. Now, the benefits of remote extensions, other than not seeing the faces of people in the office, you give internal call capabilities to people who are not in the same network as the PBX, okay? It could be the head office, which is connecting PBX in the cloud. Your PBX could be at the remote office and having people in a different office, in a different branch office, connecting through to the device. Now, the phones can be drop shipped, so you don't need to ship them to yourself, configure them, and then send them off to the remote location. You can have them shipped directly there, and you just plug them in, and you will be able to connect them. The remote location does not require static public IP address. We only recommend that for the PBX itself. But the remote location can be dynamic, and you can work from anywhere. Okay. Actually, I did not. There is no prerequisites for stun. I just mentioned that you need to have access to the firewall and just to have a functioning mail server. I did not skip those. I did mention those because we will do port forwarding for each of the phones. Greg, basically, what we have is the tunnel. Okay, so we basically use the tunnel. How easy is it to use this? Greg, I'm going to asking you this directly. How easy is it to use this? Okay, now the tunnel that we use here is proprietary to 3CX. We're not going to give that technology to the IP phones to put it into their firmware. Okay, so what we do is we do the SBC, which establishes the tunnel from the remote location, and the phones just connect through that. That's all it does. No. Second last one, Oscar there. The remote location does not require a static public IP address. It can be dynamic. I have mentioned this, haven't I? I've basically spent about a minute on this. Okay? Guys, you need to listen to what I'm saying, okay? Listen to what I'm saying. The remote location can be static. It can be static, it can be dynamic, okay? It can be just any connection to the internet. That's all we need, okay? Just any connection. Now, pros and cons for each type of remote extension. Andrea, no, we're basically talking about two methods of connecting now. You can have the SBC to make it a lot easier. Look at the pros and cons. Now, stun doesn't require an additional device. This is the only down point to the SBC, okay? It just requires an additional device. It's an extra piece of equipment you need to maintain. However, it's not a single point of failure. The SBC now has high availability as well, using a floating IP internally where the phones connect to a floating IP and the two devices talk to each other and see who's the master and who's the slave. Okay, so the pro of stun, that is the only benefit to stun and connecting directly through to the PBX. It requires pre-configuration of the extension. Okay, you need to enter the information in the phone provisioning tab. You need to put the MAC address in, you need to put the model and the ports that you are going to use. PBX delivers audio is required between the phones, otherwise the phones will not have audio between them. Port forwarding is required on the remote firewall in order to work properly. It is unencrypted. The secure SIP can be configured but manually. And it is subject to SIP ALG inspection. SIP ALG will listen into the traffic because it is running on 5060. Now the SBC does plug and play provisioning. Plug and play provisioning, you just plug it in, you see it on the PBX, you assign the extension. The audio traffic can remain within the network if you don't have PBX delivers audio and if you don't have recordings enabled. SIP ALG and NAT issues are out the window. You do not need any configuration whatsoever. Okay? None. Evangelos, no. Basically, it is just the two PBXs, the two SBCs just working together. Okay? Con basically just means, pro means the benefits and the disadvantages. Okay? It's just an English way of saying pros and cons, benefits and disadvantages. Okay? Josh, then it's not going to connect. The SBC is something that will always need to be enabled onto the PBX. It's not an end user don't use an end user PC for the SBC. Okay, you will disconnect everything from the network. Okay, from the PBX. The encryption of the audio stream is done by default by the SBC. We do encrypt everything going between the two sites, and it is free. We do not charge for the software. Okay, so when you make a call, it will take it from your PBX license. Now, provisioning a stun extension. Stun is when we connect directly to the PBX from the device itself. You will need to enter this information in the extension itself. Put the make and model of the phone in. You get a selection of the supported devices there. You enter the MAC address and the remote ports. Okay. Now, the remote ports that we enter, Mohammed, yes, Stun and SBC is available in all 3CX editions. It is even in the standard. We need to have the phones connecting onto the PBX, okay? Whatever we are talking about in this module is for all editions of 3CX, Standard, Pro, and Enterprise. So, the remote ports. These are the ports that you need to do a port forwarding on your network firewall where your office is located, okay? Not on the PBX. The PBX we covered with the firewall module. Today we are covering what you need to do at your remote location. For me, I would do this at home, right in the room behind me where I have my 42 unit rack with all my network equipment in there. Okay, so I would need to do all this configuration on my firewall at home. You need to do it at your branch office. You might not be able to do that. Okay. You might have an ISP router, which you do not have access to and can't configure. So that's where the SBC comes in. We get around that. So basically what we need to do is we need to configure the extension in 3CX. The remote ports are very important because now the PBX will need to know where to go and communicate with the remote device when it goes to communicate externally. Each device, okay, so each device will basically have its own ports configured on the firewall, okay? 5065 is the default that the PBX will always give. So once you select a remote extension, it will always give you 5065. You will need to then go and change this manually on the phone's interface, on the PBX's interface for the phone. 5065 is the first phone at each location. 14,000 to 14,019 is the audio range for these devices. 20 ports gives you 10 simultaneous calls for each device. Now, if you go to add a second device onto the PBX, okay, at the same location where the phone is already running, you will need to increment the ports on the PBX now. 5066 for the second device, 14,020, 14,039 for the audio for the second device. You will need to do this manually. The PBX will not do this for you. It is location agnostic. It does not know the location of the phone. All it knows is I'm coming from the outside, okay? It doesn't know if I'm at location A or location B or location C. You will need to maintain this documentation. So you will need to do that port forwarding in the firewall where the remote location is, okay? In each extension that is connecting remotely, disallow use of the extension outside the LAN is enabled by default. This prevents a device from connecting onto the PBX from an external network. It is a security measure. With Stun, you will be removing this security measure, okay? So you are basically opening up the PBX for attack, okay? You are allowing someone to connect remotely if they figure out the configuration device. Bukur, no, the 3CX application connects natively through the tunnel. It does not need to do, we don't need to do any of this for the 3CX apps, okay? This is very specifically for IP phones, okay? That's why the 3CX web client, that's why the 3CX apps are the way to go, okay? They just connect nice and easy through the tunnel. Sarkan, that is exactly right. Forget Stun. Stun is not really a good idea, okay? It can get quite tedious, especially if you go 2-3 phones into the network. Now, send the welcome email and wait for the phone to reach the remote location. Now, we are talking about Stun. Alex, that's exactly right. I would wait until it is officially released, though, and you should be able to get that. Yuri, stun is automatically enabled. It is a functionality of SIP, basically. Okay, so you are going to see it in action as well. Now, stun basically means session traversal utilities for NAT. Now, the way to explain this very nice and simple is you guys are all at your computer now. If I ask you, what is your public IP address? How will you go and find this information? What's the first thing you're going to do when I ask you, what's your public IP address? You're going to Google IP. You're going to open whatismyip.com. That is exactly right. Someone said, go, what is my IP? Sebastian, yeah, what is my IP? Daniel, you took the long way around. You didn't take the easy way. IP chicken, yep. So call the tech guy, yep. Now, you've basically figured out your public IP address. Fantastic. Now, in this environment now, I have this phone, okay? This phone is currently connected through my PBX, which is right there, okay? Now, this device, okay, is connected locally. 192.168.76. something on the network. So what's, forget it, I don't need to know that. Now, if this device tries to connect to my cloud PBX with its private IP address, 192.168.76. something, that device will not be able to communicate. You cannot communicate with a remote device using your local IP address. So now this device needs to figure out what its public IP address is. Now, stun basically is the network service for that. It's the reverse of DNS. With DNS, you find your destination. With stun, you find your local public IP address. Okay, so that's all stun does. Shane, it's a Yealink. It's the T57W. It's the new touch one. Okay, so basically, that is basically what stun does. It discovers the public IP address and it discovers the firewall port mappings as well. So you're going to the PBX and saying, dude, what IP address can you see me coming from? So the PBX will respond to you with your public IP address and your port mappings. So now when you communicate with the PBX, you will be using your public IP address and not the private. Okay, the stun server is the PBX. It is configured out of the box. You don't need to do anything. It's a lot simpler than what it seems. Okay, now the phone has reached the end user. We are assuming now that the user is competent enough to be able to configure, to connect the handset to the handset port and not the headset, and to be able to put the Ethernet card into the internet port, not the PC port. Now, we all know that that's not really easy for some users. So guess what? You're going to the remote office to do it for them. Okay. Yep. Brian is right. You're going to make dollars out of that. Okay. So what happens when the end, let's assume that they are competent enough and they do it. What happens when the phone boots up? Okay. When the phone boots up, we basically will see a login screen. Okay. We will be asked for a username and password. Now, we get this information from the welcome email. The phone basically will need to have the username, which is the extension number, and the password is the voicemail PIN number. When you are typing it in, please make sure that you are typing numbers and not alphanumeric. Okay, so basically you will put it into the phone. This needs to be done once during the provisioning. Okay, rebooting the phone will not affect this. So this is what the end user needs to do once. Okay, that's why we need to have our welcome email going out. Okay, we're going to see next week when we do the security why this happens. Brian, I have a better one. Okay, I've got picnic. Okay, I've got picnic, problem in chair, not in computer. Right, so a phone which has 0 configuration on it is plugged in by the user, and all of a sudden it gets a username and password for the PBX. What's happening? We use a service of the IP phone manufacturers called the RPS, the Remote Provisioning Service. So what happens now is that when we define a remote extension and we put the MAC address of the phone in, we are sending this information to the RPS server of the IP phone manufacturer. Okay? This basically allows us to send a MAC address and a provisioning URL. The RPS basically is a large database of every MAC address each manufacturer has, and each manufacturer has their own. Okay, so what I'm doing is now I'm going to send my Yealink phone's MAC address with the provisioning URL to this server. It will be stored there for 2 weeks. Okay, so within 2 weeks, the phone will need to connect and go and get the provisioning URL. Hi, I am a Yealink T57W. Let me see if I can see the menu status. My MAC address is 805 Echo Charlie 0 A Alpha 2 04 DD. Okay. Do you have a provisioning URL for me? So I've sent this MAC address. Okay. I've sent this MAC address with that URL to the RPS server. The phone will go and look for it. So once it finds it, it knows where to go and get the configuration file. Through the powers of DNS, it will go to the PBX and say, listen, I've been told to come here. This is my MAC address, and this is my provisioning URL. Please give me my provisioning file. The PBX sees that it comes from a third party and says, no, I want you to authenticate yourself, and then I will give you your provisioning information. Okay? Yuri, only the MAC address and provisioning URL. Okay, so we only have the FQDN. So the phone basically goes and gets where it goes. It goes and gets its destination. Okay, we do not put these settings on the RPS. All we do is give it where to go. Okay, you're basically telling it a destination. Now, if something goes wrong, the stun connection will not happen to the PBX. So the phone will not be able to connect. Okay. Audio issues is a very common issue that we have with stun devices because there's no port forwarding done on the firewall, and not being able to transfer a call, put them on hold, or resume them. Generally, it is SIP ALG on the remote network. Please disable it on your remote firewall as well, and check that you have the proper network address translation implemented. Greg, it is very important that they are on the proper firmware, because older firmware does not have the certificate of 3CX of Let's Encrypt, basically for it to allow a connection to go through, because it needs to have a secure connection to get that information. Okay, that's why the prerequisites are basically to have a PBX with a valid SSL certificate, so you basically are able to go in. So this firmware of the phones do support this certificate, and they do have it to come in. Okay. Now, so that is the stun connection. The SBC now, the SBC is configured in the remote location, but we do have settings on the PBX as well. Going to the SIP trunks, you add SBC. Okay. All the information that is required is basically the FQDN and an authentication key. That's all you need to do for the configuration. You basically copy paste this into the configuration of the SBC. The SBC, basically, the installation looks like that. Okay, so you put the web URL there and the authentication key. The latest version can be downloaded from the customer or partner portals. I will show you from where to download that as well. Okay. Greg, I'm not going to be able to troubleshoot that. You might need to open to technical support. Have a look and see how I do it, and you should be able to get that done for you as well. It might be something on your network which is blocking that traffic out. Okay, so if you do, like we said, troubleshooting, if you don't have a connection to the server, just check the remote firewall for NAT and the SIP ALG. Right. After we install the SBC, we can monitor it. We can see if it is connected to the PBX or not. We can see the build version. So when we have an update, we can see it and we can update it as well by selecting the SBC and clicking on update. You don't even need to connect to the SBC itself. You just push it through and it will update. I can also update the configuration as well. Okay, so I can push a new configuration as well, changing security settings, failover settings, because it can connect to the failover PBX as well, and also logging levels, okay, for technical support. So, Scott, no, it is a device. You basically get a device, you install it, and you connect it. Okay, we're going to see the whole procedure now. I'm going to connect this onto my laptop very, very shortly. AJ, it is slightly different. There is two procedures to that. The SBC is very much like a local extension. You just see it in the phones page, you select it, and you apply it. Okay, I am going to demonstrate both ways of connecting it. Okay, so provisioning the phones with SBC, very simple. It will show up in the phones page. You will see that it will show up as a new device. You will see the IP address is a local IP address. With a stun, it will be a public IP address. But you will see that it is coming in via the SBC, and you will see the local IP address of the SBC machine. If you have 2, 3, or 4 SBCs, depending on the you will see each phone coming in once per SBC and a different via IP address, and you can select which one they connect through. Okay, so you basically assign it just like a local extension. The provisioning is done through HTTPS, not coming in through the tunnel. The tunnel only combines the SIP traffic and the audio traffic, not the HTTPS, and basically not provisioning and not the presence. Brian, a lot of people just say, how many phones on the same remote site? A lot of people say even for one, okay, because they don't want to do the port forwarding on the firewall. They can't do it. Stun generally is very problematic. So they basically just select even for one, just to bear the cost, 30, 40 euros to put a SBC there and get over and done with. Mohammed, you will be able to do this. That's exactly what this is. This is the PBX. This is not the SBC interface. This is the PBX. Once you connect the phones to the SBC, through the SBC, it will go through the tunnel and you will see the phones on the main PBX. This is the PBX interface now. Okay, so you're basically having them come through nice and easy. Okay, so all the material that we are covering is on the 3CX Academy. Jody likes to copy paste it many times now. Okay, so let's go and demonstrate that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go and connect our stun PBX, our stun extension. Okay, so this is my webinar PBX Express. I do have my IP phone here. I will switch off my camera to make the screen a bit bigger for you there. Shane, if you have a point-to-point VPN, there is no need for the SBC. You will basically be connecting the phones as local extensions, not remote extensions. So if you have a VPN, just connect them locally and you should be okay. There is no need either for stun or for the SBC. Don, we only support the provisioning of one phone to each PBX. AJ, no need. You don't need to have PBX delivers audio for the SBC, but if you do have recordings enabled, this will be going through the tunnel anyway, but if you do not, it will remain in the same network, okay? Serkan, that is right. Even for MPLS, if you do have layer 2 access to the through the two networks, you should not need to have stun or SBC. Mike, is basically up to you. A VPN does cost money. It does require equipment as well. It is basically up to you to decide which one you want. Andrea, you will, the phone's in the remote location with VPN access. If you allow multicast to go through, otherwise you will basically need to get the provisioning URL and just put it into the phones. But if they have multicast access, you will see them in the phones page as well, or option 66. The provisioning server, no, will give the external provisioning URL. You don't, you will not be using the remote extension now. Yes, Greg, it can. It can be manually pasted into the phone, but it can also work with option 66 as well. AJ, yes, you can have more than one. I did mention it that if you have 2, 3, 4, or 5 SBCs, the PBX will see the same phone coming in multiple times because each of those SBCs will get that multicast request, and they will all forward that to the PBX. The way you can differentiate between each of those 2, 3, 4, or 5 is by seeing the via IP address. That's right, Jeffrey. In the remote SBC, all the traffic will stay locally within the site. It is one of the benefits of the SBC as well, as long as PBX delivers audio is unchecked and recordings are disabled as well. Okay, but if you have recordings, it will basically send it through to the PBX. Right, so let's go and configure that device. So my extension now that we configured yesterday, we basically set up the PBX, but we didn't set up the extension. So under phone provisioning, this is the stun that we're doing now, huh? We're not doing the SBC just yet. So I will add the phone in. I will select my my Yealink T57W. Okay, let me get the MAC address. Let me get the correct MAC address this time, because last time I put the Wi-Fi MAC address in. 805 Echo Charlie 0 204 D. Okay, so that is the MAC address of the phone. Okay, we can see the provisioning link is a local link. I cannot access that from this network, so I will select direct stun remote. We can see that the provisioning link changes. It now goes to the external FQDN. We can see the local SIP port of the phone, the local RTP port, and the beginning and the end, 20 ports. I will need to do that port forwarding on my firewall, okay, to come to this device, okay, in order for the PBX to properly communicate with the phone. The provisioning information is done for the phone, so I can change any settings I need for the individual phone. Okay, going to the options, make sure that you have disallow use of the extension outside the LAN. If it is enabled, you will see a warning. Okay, we also have a warning here as well that will tell you that this option is enabled. Go and disable it. Okay, so we disable this and we click on OK. I have now configured this device on the PBX. Going to the dashboard, we see that the RPS request for the Yealink phone has been delivered successfully. So now I've sent the MAC address and I have sent the provisioning URL for this device to Yealink. Okay, so now the phone will need to be rebooted. So I'm going to reset this device now. Okay, I'm resetting to factory. Okay, so I'm resetting the phone. So again, yes, you do. You can do bulk provisioning. You just go to the extension and import the extensions, and you should be able to import the MAC addresses as well. Brian, yes, the PBX will always assign 5065 and 14,000 to 14,019. You need to manually maintain those, yeah. Okay, so now the phone is rebooting now. It should be very quick to come up now. And we should see the username and password interface. Just trying to get rid of the glare of the... Okay. Okay, sending provisioning requests and config updating, and there it is, username and password. Okay, so now I need to go and enter the information that I need in. So under my extension, I would go to my welcome email. My username is 000. So 000. My password is my voicemail PIN number 2987. So 2987. Done. Okay, the config is updating. Okay, so I have entered that information in. The config is now updating. That should reboot and it should be configured and connected. The login credentials will change. The phone basically has, under the phones page, you will see that there is a phone password. Okay, so that basically has the phone password. That is we do reassign. That's not admin anymore. After the phone gets provisioned, we do not keep admin. We change the password for the phone as well. After 2 weeks, AJ, yes, it can be used with another. You can assign it to another PBX. However, if this PBX goes and basically edits the extension and clicks on OK, it will basically try to override that as well. Okay, so it will be a bit of a shitstorm on that. Shane, no. The ports can be different, can be the same if you are on different locations. So if you've got one device at multiple locations, this will basically, you can have the same ports. However, it is only for the same location because now you're connecting two devices from the same public IP address using different ports. Okay, and that device, no service. Come on, no joy, no connection. My network is not allowing that to connect through to the PBX because my UPnP has been disabled. Okay, so I've not been able to connect that through. I don't have the proper configuration on my network. Okay, so that basically has not been able to connect through. Alex, no, I'm not going to show you how to configure a router for a 3CX training, no. Yep, I am a killjoy. Brian, I think you have seen that. No, it won't work because I don't have... Now, sometimes on some networks it does, especially if you have UPnP enabled on your network. Okay, so UPnP is not enabled on my network, so I'm not able to get that through. That is a +1 for the SBC, Kome, that is right. Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. We are going to go very quickly. You can still see my screen. Yep. So I'm just going to go uninstall my PBX now. Not doing a backup. I do have the backup from, I do have my secondary backup, so not needed now. Right, so basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and download the SBC. So let's go to our customer portal. Sorry, get the camera off. Okay, so under resources, under downloads, we have the download links. Now, if you are using the Debian version, it is in the ISO of the PBX. We also have the SBC there as well. This is the Windows version. Okay. 5.5 megabytes. Now, I'm going to do something a bit different now. I'm going to go and install a previous version so we can see the update as well. Okay, so I'm just installing the previous version so we can see the update as well. Just waiting for that to uninstall now. In the meantime, I will go and configure my SBC on the PBX. So that's not connected. That's not giving me any joy. No. Right. So SIP trunks. Add SBC. I'm just going to call this one webinar SBC. And OK. This is the information I'm just going to copy paste, okay, into the SBC configuration. That's all I need to do. Okay, just waiting for that PBX to uninstall now. Okay, so that's been uninstalled, and I will start the configuration of the. Okay, just not anything there. Okay, so I'm going to start the configuration of the SBC. Okay, that's the one I downloaded. This is the one I will install. Okay, it is just accepting the terms in the license agreement. That's where it gets installed, the program data. This is what we have to copy paste. So let's get that information. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay, click on next. That's basically all it is. You just copy paste this information in, click on OK to get that configuration. We see it's red, and click on install. And we should be having that installed in a few seconds now. Okay, click on finish, and we should see that coming up very soon. Okay, that's come up already. All we see now is Brian, that's basically when you connect onto the SBC itself. Okay, you don't actually need to use it because we're going to be provisioning that. But if you need to access the SBC itself, that's what we use. Okay, but what we use to actually connect to the PBX is the authentication key. So update. A new update is available. Select it. Click on update. .390 is available. Proceed. Give it a few seconds. That will go and update. We'll see that going red. And within a few seconds, that should be going green again. There it is. And it's now updated. It literally takes a few seconds to update the SBC. It's 5.5 megabytes after all. Okay. And now I can go and connect a device. I will be using my Snom in this case. So I'm just going to reset that. So this is with a non-configured network. Okay, my network is not configured for anything other than outgoing traffic, no incoming traffic coming in. So just give that a bit of a chance. Come on. So I'm just resetting my phone here. You can't actually see me do that. Okay, so that phone is getting reset now. We should see that coming. Leighton, basically any firewall that is required for the Windows is done automatically by the installation. Okay, so basically there's no firewall configuration required for that, okay, for the SBC, because that will always make a connection back to the PBX, okay? It will not need, if it does need to have anything, it will, it is no touch for the client's firewall, that's right, no touch at all. That's right, Josh. They need to be on the same LAN. It is basically through multicast. It basically picks up the multicast request in the remote network and tunnels it back through to the PBX. That's all it does. Mike, no. The SBC and PBX should not be on the same machine. This is in a remote network. I have stressed this quite heavily. This basically creates the tunnel connection from a remote network to reach the PBX. If it is on the same network, it's pointless, okay? You're basically using a machine to do something which you can do natively with multicast. Nope, no port forwarding whatsoever. This is zero touch on the firewall in the remote location, zero configuration, nothing, nada. It is like configuring one of these, okay? It is like configuring a 3CX application. You don't do anything on the firewall, nothing whatsoever, nothing. All you need to do is basically just use a machine and basically connect back to the PBX. That's it for people that want to use their phones. Now, the phone has basically been reset. We should see that coming. What's going on here? Why is it not going through? Oh, shit. That's not good. That's not good. Why not? Looks like my network's not working the way it should, is it? Phones. Ah, there it is. Okay. So just need a bit of a refresh there. So basically now we see the phone coming up as a new device, okay? Brian, everyone's selling SBC devices. It's just a computer, just a Raspberry Pi, just a computer, mate. That's all it is. Alex, it is possible. You can use that using multiple VMs on a server. That is possible as long as they are accessible from the network. Yes, you can. Okay. In case of WAN outage, no. The PBX is always in control. All it does, listen, the SBC, all it does is create a tunnel. It doesn't do anything else. That's all it does. It creates a tunnel. It just makes the phone reach the PBX easy. That is all it does. It doesn't do anything else. It has no functionality whatsoever. It connects a network to the PBX. That's all it does. Simple. Keep it simple. Do not overthink. You guys are overthinking things, okay? It connects a remote network to the PBX. That's all it does. It creates a tunnel. It is a 3CX application without presence. That's all it does, okay? That's all it does. Brian, absolutely not. It is our own intellectual property. We are not going to give them that technology. We like them, but we don't like them that much. We are not going to negotiate anything with them. Absolutely not. We've got one of our advantages and we're going to give it to someone else. Sorry, but I'm going to say it. Fuck that. Okay? We are not going to give it to them. No way. So, what we do now is we get the phone and I can add the extension. I've only got one extension, which I have already assigned to my stun extension. I will I can assign it to that one. Come on, assign, there we go. Or I can add, okay? So we see that it is a SNOM D785. That's the MAC address. All this information is automatically taken, okay? That's the IP address of the session border controller. If I've got multiple session border controllers, I can change this, and I would be able to see it multiple times here. We can see that this is the IP address of the phone. This is the IP address of the session border controller. What it does is basically get that and send it through. Now, if I had two session border controllers, I would see the same phone twice, and I would be able to select which one I want to connect through. So I'm going to add a new extension now. I'm going to call this one Nicholas SBC. Click on OK, and the phone basically provisions. Okay, so now that is now connected, and I can see it as a provisioned device as well now. Okay, oops. Okay.
Please enter personal identification number, then press hash.
And that has basically entered and called the voicemail. Okay, so you can see how easy it is to connect a phone through an SBC. Brian, no. If you do have multiple devices, so if you do have multiple SBCs and you see them, you will need to select them and reject them in order to get rid of those. What we basically do every now and then, because we have multiple PBXs on the same network, we just select all the extensions, reject, and that deletes all the secondary devices there. Okay, so it's very easy to do that. It will remain there until you do it yourself. Okay. Alex, yes, we can have failover SBCs. That is something which is very recent with the release of Update 5. We will be releasing a new, I think we do have a blog post on that. 3CX SBC high availability. Introducing the sneak preview. Okay, so eliminate downtime with the new 3CX high availability. Okay, this is only for the Linux, however. Okay, so when you do the ISO, you will see two versions of the SBC there, the 390 and the new one, which is for the high availability as well. Okay, so you need to have the new SBC there. Okay. So you didn't actually see it at the training, but it is something which is something very recent. Okay. Greg, the reason why we have a drop down is because you can change the SBC to go to a stun or to a local extension. So you basically select which one you basically need to do it. Evangelos, that should be coming soon, if I'm not mistaken, with the new blog post that we have, 3CX remote kitchen. Okay, what's cooking in our remote kitchens? March the 27th, we released our new roadmap, the update 5 we've just done. So what's coming in update 6? That should be coming in update 6. So in about 2 to 3 months. Okay, so that's on average when we release a service pack. Okay, that's the roadmap. Let me see if I can copy paste that to you. Oh, I can do it through that. Okay. Alrighty then, so let's move on with the hot desking. So we're going to use the same provisioning now. We are going to use our IP phone, okay, which is through the SBC to do hot desking. Replacing the SBC to a new one, I think you cannot upgrade. I think it needs to be specifically installed with the new version. Oh, daisy chain with the IP phone. Not really heard of that, to be honest. I not really heard of that, Josh, to be honest. If people can, it is just a network connection, to be honest, but would that's going to be putting a lot of strain through the phone. You're basically going to be receiving the network. You're going to be sending it through that. You're going to be connecting through that, connecting back, and then bloody hell, man, that's going to be. I think it might be best just to put it somewhere where everyone can access it. Just put it on the little router there. Bit of double-sided tape on that. Well, listen, how many SBCs are you planning to have on that location? Listen, I'm not saying it's impossible. It probably will be possible, but is that an efficient way of using a network? Now, hot desking. Hot desking is truly ugh. Okay. Now, I did mention before about connecting IP phones to and having the germs going. And someone did mention, I can't remember who, that it's your own germs. You take your phone with you. It's your own phone. But with hot desking, multiple people can use it. Okay. Basically, hot desking is allowing an IP phone to be used by multiple users. Yuck. In a call center, for example. Okay. Now, when we Serkan, that is right. Free seating. You basically turn up to your office, to your call center. You sit wherever you want. Okay, we call it hot desking. Open seating, open plan, open desk, whatever. You just sit, you log in, and you go for it. Now, a lot of systems use they basically map an extension to a device. We don't do that at 3CX. With 3CX, an extension follows a user. So even though you are using phone A today and phone B tomorrow, you are using your own extension credentials. Each person has their own extension, okay? It follows a user. Javier, that is right. Free ticket to get the Rona. Yep, quick disconnect on headsets. That's right, Andrea, but still people touching the phones and yuck. No. I generally, you can tell that I don't like phones. Is it too obvious? Because people ask me what my favorite phone is. My OnePlus. Okay. Now, each person does have their own extension. They have their own login credentials. They log in, they log out. Okay. The IP phones in a hot desking environment can be local with the PBX or they can be remote. You cannot use hot desking with Stun. Okay. Prerequisites, user-supported IP phone. We have all the configuration in the templates, pre-configured. Everything is running out of the box. Fanvil, Grandstream, HTEX, NOM, and Yealink in no particular order. Running the proper firmware. Now, hot desking is a functionality that requires a Pro or Enterprise Edition license. It is not available in the standard. Before we started the webinar, the PBX Express that I created yesterday with my standard key, I did upgrade that to a Pro in order to get this functionality active. And we need to know how to provision a phone both locally and through the SBC, because that is exactly how a phone gets provisioned in a hot desking environment, through the SBC or locally. The hot desking configuration is found under the advanced menu of 3CX. Hot desking, you will see a nice big blue button, add, click on it, and start the configuration of the device. You will select the phone's make and model. You will put the MAC address of the phone in. You can copy paste it from an existing PBX or from a spreadsheet, and you put it in. You select your provisioning method, local or SBC. This will need to be pre-configured before the multicast comes in. You pre-configure this like you do a Stun extension. Okay, so you put the information in. If it is the SBC, you will need to put the IP address of the SBC yourself, the local IP address of the SBC. You put it in manually. You then do the provisioning information. Now, the phone provisioning tab of an extension contains the network information of a phone, ringtones, and stuff like that. Now, since this phone will not be configured to a particular extension, we do the provisioning at the device level under hot desking. Okay. Phones and faxes are the devil. Alex, I don't know if I've actually told you this, but what I think of faxing, it's the cockroach of technologies. Evangelos, I'm not expecting you to require a new installation for that. I'm expecting it will be just a simple selection of updating the operating system from within the management console as well. Okay. When we went from Debian 8 to Debian 9, it was just a simple PBX. Just click on it, update. Okay. Just like a service pack. All right. So all the provisioning information is done through the provisioning of the hot desking. Now, how do we provision the phone itself? You reboot the phone or reset the phone, okay? It will show us a new extension. You will select it, but now you will see a small difference. There is no add new extension. In the previous configuration that I did with the SBC, I created a new extension. This is not going to create a new extension. It will not even assign to an existing extension. What it does, however, is tell the phone with assign extension, go and pick up your provisioning file. It's just a trigger that we use, okay? So once you click on that, it will tell you that this phone with this MAC address is now hot desking 1, hot desking 2, hot desking 3, and so on. Brian, they will be able to log into any handset if it is hot desking. If it is an assigned phone to a normal provisioning extension, no, they can't just log into that, okay? Because each phone will be assigned to each individual extension. But now this one will allow them to do so. So this now provisions as hot desking 1. It is a dummy terminal. It is a vessel for them to go and connect onto the PBX. How do they do that? An extension by default cannot use hot desking. It is something that you will need to enable in the extension settings. This is under the Options tab, Enable Hot Desking, and now they can log into any hot desking device. So if they see hot desking on the phone, they will be able to use that. Now, how do we use the hot desking? We use dial codes. Now, dial codes are configured in the dial codes settings of the PBX. We use *77*. Now, we mentioned the word star and not asterisk in 3CX for obvious reasons. Okay, we don't really want to mention them. So *77* is the default dial code. If you are used to any other dial code and you want to change it, you can do so. Just make sure it doesn't clash with any other dial code. The syntax basically is *77*, the extension number in any format, 2, 3, 4, or 5 digits, followed by a star at the end, and hit dial. You will be asked for your voicemail PIN number. You will enter it, hit hash, and the phone will log in. When you log in, the extension settings will be pulled to the phone, which does include BLF settings. So if you have configured your BLF keys as well, these will also be given to the phone as well, with one minor difference. The first button will be assigned the logout button. So all it does is basically assign a custom speed dial, which basically dials *77*, the single number 5 star, which is basically logout. If you forget to log your extension out and someone comes to sit at your desk, they can log in to their own extension directly without logging you out first. Okay, so they can just log in and it will override your login and log. Also, so you can only be logged into one hot desking device at a time. Okay, this does not affect your login status on a normal extension, because that you can have multiple devices on the same extension. Right. The admin, being the king of the network, is in a position to see who is logged in to the hot desking devices, and also has the capability of logging people out. An extension will not automatically log out from a hot desking device. It is not possible to have a schedule, because imagine being on a call at 4:59 and your phone is scheduled to log out at 5 o'clock. You will basically drop the call. Okay, so we do not log people out automatically. The admin will do it for you. You can do it yourself, or a colleague can do it with their extension logging into your phone. Okay. Right, so we are going to go and demonstrate that now. We are going to use the same setup that we have now. So let's get that up and running. Let me get the camera off. Okay. So this device now will be used in a hot desking environment. So I'm going to copy that MAC address. I'm going to go to Advanced, Hot Desking, and add this device as a hot desking device. I will select SNOM D785. I will paste that in and click on OK. This tells me that it is already assigned to extension 001, so I cannot override that. So I need to go to extension 001. I will delete this device from here because now it's not assigned to any extension. And I will reset the phone so it doesn't blacklist the network here or itself. And I will go and reassign that under hot desking. Okay. So click on Add, SNOM D785, put that MAC address in again, click on OK. We see that we are now configuring hot desking 1. Okay, so hot desking 1 is our device. It is through the SBC, and the IP address of the session border controller is 192.168.76.154. If you put the incorrect IP address, the phone will do absolutely nothing. It will stay idle and do nothing. Okay. If you select, for example, local and it's remote, it won't do anything again. The provisioning is done at the device level, so all the extensions logging in now will be using the same provisioning settings. Click on OK, and now that is ready for us to go and connect. So it's available, and we're just waiting for this device now to go and reset. No, AJ, this is all done. The PBX will see this with its local IP address, okay, because it establishes a tunnel. It is direct to the it does not see the firewall at all in this case. This is the local IP address of the session border controller. Because if you put the remote IP address in, it's going to say this is not the IP address of the session border controller, because the PBX sees everything at a local level now. Daniel, yes, it can. 911 is the only thing that, or an emergency number is the only thing that a non-logged in hot desk can dial. Okay. But it can't dial any other extension, just the emergency services. Okay. Right. So that has basically rebooted now. There it is. Okay. So we now have the same device coming in. We can see that add extension is not there, so I can't add a physical extension. I can assign the phone SNOM D785 MAC address will be assigned to hot desking 1. Click on OK, and that phone now provisions. Okay, so I should be able to see that now as a provisioned device. I should be able to see that under hot desking as well. Where is it? Hot desking. Okay, so that is now available. Now, I'm going to go to extension and get the voicemail PIN number because I'm going to need that to log in. So actually, let me open up the camera so you can see me doing it as well. Okay, phone is now Oops. Okay, so that is now hot desking 1. Okay. And that is green. You can't really see it that much. It's not really a clear picture, but that is a green thing. It's hot desking 1. Okay. Now, *77* 001*. So I'm going to be using extension 001. Hit dial.
Access denied.
Access denied. I do not have access. I have not enabled hot desking on this device, on this extension. So going to options, enable hot desking. Click on OK. Let's do that again. *77*001*. Hit that.
Please enter personal identification number, then press hash.
Okay, so my personal identification number for this extension is 8926. 8926.
Login successful. The phone will now be reset to your account.
Okay, so now that goes and resets to 001. Okay, sorry, just trying to balance that there a bit. Okay, so that is now 001. Okay. And I can dial my voicemail.
Please enter personal identification number, then press hash.
Okay, so that is like that. No, a BLF cannot be configured for the login. You will need to put that number in, because don't forget that *77* is followed by the extension number. It is not just a BLF just to give you the extension number. It will ask you for the extension number as well. You put that in. So basically what you're dialing is star. Are you going to put how many BLFs would you need to put all the extension numbers in, okay, that are going to use it? So no, make it easy, keep it simple. *77*. Listen, if someone is that lazy to do it, they shouldn't be in a call center anyway, because they're going to be answering calls all day. They're going to be hitting a lot of buttons. Okay, what's a few extra? No, Brian, no, because it basically does not get, it does not ask for the extension number. It asks only for the PIN number. So you basically send it with the extension number. So no, that is a no-go on that. Okay. Right. So now we can see, let me just bring that so I can see what you can see as well. Okay. We can see the first button is log out. Clicking on that.
You have logged out. The phone will now be reset.
Okay. So going to hot desking. It is, oh, sorry, you didn't see that before. Let me just do that again. So *77*, 001*.
Please enter personal identification.
8926.
Login successful. The phone will now be reset to your account.
Okay, so now we see that is logged in by 001, Nicholas SBC. Okay, so now that is logged in, we can see it, and as the admin, I can select and log the person out. Look what happens when I log the person out. Don't know if you can actually see that, but let me see what you can see. Let me just bring that like that. Okay, you can sort of see it there. Okay, so I'm just going to log that out now. So log it out. Okay, so now that basically reprovisions and becomes hot desking 1 again. Okay, so the admin can log the person out. All right, so basically that is the login and log out with a hot desking device. People just come, they log in, they log out. All right. Yeah, what's a few extra buttons, Alex, huh? I used to work in not in a call center, I used to work in the technical support department of 3CX as well. They pulled me out of that quick smart. But yeah, I know what it's like to answer phones all day. Right, okay, so basically that is all we have for you today. We've basically covered the 2 types of remote extensions. hot desking as well, so being able to log into any device. Yep, Brian, we are done early today. Today was a bit of a short one. We only, even if we had the 3 modules, they would have been finished a bit early. So, well, Sebastian, round 2 is tomorrow. Basically, we will be doing the last 3 modules of the intermediate tomorrow. We will be covering the forwarding rules, the extension groups, and the time-based scheduling. That should take us the full 2 hours. Today was a bit of a funny day with a small one early. Alex, I'm not going to show you how to configure a router. I'm not going to show you how to configure a third-party device, and that's got personal information on there as well. Okay. AJ, no, because we don't actually condone the configuration of templates. We basically say get them as they are, the defaults. We don't support customization, so we don't show the configuration of the templates as well. That's right, Shane. Same time tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here again. Oh, Sebastian, the URL. I think I might let Jody do that for you. Yeah, same time, same bat channel. A lot of people have told me to actually get the red Fanville phone, which is the bat phone. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. I do hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Thursday, the last working day of the week for me, because Friday is a public holiday in Cyprus again. AJ, yes, it is possible to push custom config. We just don't support it, and we don't demonstrate that either. So, guys, thank you very much. Dennis, no, we have deprecated that. We are moving the Mac OS to the web client. So use the web client for the Mac. You should be good. Okay. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to be seeing you again tomorrow. I'm going to go get ready now because in about 25 minutes, we have bingo. We're doing a nice little web meeting event internally to 3CX. We're going to have bingo like old people. So I'm going to go have a few drinks now with my colleagues remotely. See you then and see you tomorrow. So have a good night.